Queensland women representative number 1 is Karyn Murphy. Karyn is one of the greatest players to have played the game and is a pioneer of women's rugby league. Karyn represented Queensland on 20 occasions and played for Australia in 27 tests. In 2013, Karyn captained the Gillaroos to success in the World Cup and is the current coach of the Gold Coast Titans in the NRLW. So highly thought of, the player of the match in the NRLW Grand Final is awarded the Karyn Murphy Medal.
Well, Karyn Murphy, thanks for your time. As a young girl growing up, did you ever think you'd be sitting here in FOGS headquarters talking about your career in rugby league and where the women's game is now?
100% no. Very clear growing up that, you know, you could play your netballs and even touch football and other sports like that, but it wasn't even an option to play rugby league, and it was a game that, you know, I'd kick the ball around the backyard and around the old trees and do everything I could to practice in the hope that one day I could take the field playing rugby league. But as time went on, I went through school, you couldn't. And then it was only in my 20s that a competition was started here in Brisbane, and I went down and played, and that was the first time, as I said, it was into your 20s that I could play, and that was sort of says my age early, but that was in the mid-90s, and very fortunate to, 1998 was the first time I could, we went to a nationals and fortunate to make the Australian team then, so to play then, and even in doing that then, I wasn't too sure where the game would go or how long they would stick with it, because it wasn't still big, I suppose, with numbers and nothing like what you see today. So through that period of time, and I certainly wasn't the first, and I always make that clear, I came in at that time, but there was many girls that did a lot of hard yards before me to try to get this game up and running. And after many attempts, it got somewhere, but even after that time, after 98, you felt like you'd take a step forward and quite a few steps backwards, depending on who was there in administration supporting the game. And so it shakes yourself to see now that 2013 was a big turning point for the women's game when Australia did win the first World Cup, and it was the first time that the game didn't pay us, but paid for our travel over, and how far it's come since then.
Well, take us back to that young girl growing up in the suburbs of Brisbane. You had the dream, but did you ever give up on that dream? Did you think that it wouldn't become a reality?
Yeah, I never gave up. Right or wrong, I was going to play a game of rugby league somewhere at some time. That was always in my mind. But did I think it was going to happen? Definitely. As I said, maybe a local game or something I thought we might have done growing up, but when it started you could see it, and we got to play for Queensland and got to play for Australia, and then I was so lucky I got to a lot of my career at Brisbane South, the club that I sat on that hill watching. People say, "Oh, you're jealous now," and of course you are. Like you want to play in, where the girls get to play now and what they get to experience, but no, I feel very fortunate that I just even got to pull on a pair of footy boots and play rugby league.
Well, take us on the journey. What was that first game, the first organised game you played in? What are your memories of a young girl giving the opportunity to play your first game?
Yeah, I remember it was actually with Brisbane North. They had a team, and a few of the girls I knew were playing in there, so they said, come over, and I was straight over there, and Joey Kilroy was our coach, Smokin' Joe, and Deb Kilroy in our team, and so that was a great year. So we had a few games, and again, it was very small. I'm trying to think, there might have been only 4 teams or something in that year, but it was just great to have, to be able to play footy, and so after that time, the competition expanded, it got stronger, but that was really fond memories to be able to have that first game of footy.
And what position did you play?
Well, I'm slow, and maybe can just point a little bit, so I always played in the halves, so I played halfback.
And kicking that ball around the tree and growing up, what was it like going from basically playing against, nature, being trees, etc., and dodging them, to actually being on a field with teammates playing against someone else?
You know what, I think that actually helped me a little bit. Like, it was just, all those things you watch on TV, whether it was Wally or the other players that I watched, and then putting that into practice and, listening to it and being quite a student of the game. So I think all of those things definitely helped. And then playing touch football, I think that naturally helped with your ball skills. But the big area, and I was never the greatest general play kicker, but to come from a touch football background and not having the opportunity to kick to, that's something that you're always working on. But definitely a few tricks there that you're able to do.
Karyn, was it a bit like, that great line from the movie Field of Dreams, build it and they will come? That as people like you and others built the foundations and girls could see what was possible, did you, when you were playing, notice sort of a snowballing effect?
Yep. So looking back now, when myself, and I was actually talking to Veronica White the other day about this, like when you were doing it and playing it, you just loved it, and you were not thinking probably at the time of what we were doing, that it was growing momentum, I suppose, and you had some input into what was happening to hopefully it's helped to where things are now, but you did it because you love it, and you just were so grateful that you had the opportunity. But particularly looking back, you can see how just the growth during that time. Some years were slower than others, and there was definitely some setbacks, but as it went on, just to see now how it's up there as one of the fastest growing sports, women's rugby league, it's definitely that the young girls coming through, they can see your Ellie Briggenshaws and others now on their TV screens, and they can see it, and there's pathways for them where that hasn't been around forever either. So there's that genuine pathway, they can see it, and I guess their parents and other people around them are a lot more comfortable with them playing than potentially what they would have been in my day.
You mentioned 2013 and that World Cup, but was that the pivotal moment? Is there another turning point other than that, or is that sort of the line in the sand for the women's game where you cross that line to being something bigger than what it had ever been?
I feel that was a really pivotal moment, and players got behind us, and I remember GI in particular coming to the airport and seeing us off for that World Cup, and he was one of the more vocal ones, and seeing what we went through, and it was really pivotal, that moment, I believe, because I went through and I saw so many girls losing their jobs, selling their cars, all those stories you hear about. We had, a night before a test match here at Davies Park, was sleeping in the West End backpackers, which was probably awesome, but not real good for a test match. So we did all that in scout halls. 2013, where they said from ARL at the time, we'll pay for the flights and we could take our strongest team. We'd lost 3 World Cups before that, and we never fielded as our strongest team because girls just couldn't afford to go to play for their country. So to field our strongest team and win that World Cup, and then after that, some funding happened. Obviously the broadcasting now deals with the girls. The other big factors are, we didn't even have medical team, doctors, support staff, or if we did, there was very volunteer basis, and it's still a lot of work to be done now in that space off the field with the support staff. But I do believe that was a pivotal moment of a turning corner of what's provided for the girls, what we see today.
But having said that, if you and the other players at that time hadn't slept at the backpackers at West End, hadn't slept in scout halls, hadn't had volunteers to do, the game wouldn't be where it is today. So that fundamental, that basic, okay, yep, we will do it because we want to do it. That, looking back, does that now seem to you as being just as important as that 2013 moment, the fact that you were prepared to do it? Because if you weren't prepared to do it, you wouldn't have the game. Yeah,
looking back now, that's what we say, reflection. Looking back now, you can see that, that was a big part of...
the sacrifices.
Yeah, and it was a sacrifice, but we did it because we wanted to do it, and, and me personally, I wouldn't take any of that back. As I said, of course you want to be playing now, of course you do, but those times we had and those experiences we had, and you laugh about them now because they were like some, moments that you would just, you would never do in any sort of, not even professional sport, you wouldn't do it. But, people having to bring food into us at World Cups, we didn't have money for food. That was only 2008. So not that long ago, all these things happened. So you wouldn't take any of those moments back, and some lifelong friends out of all of those teams. So no, you wouldn't take it back, but it's only probably now as I said, I was a fortunate one in the police where, I never had a holiday every leave you'd take to play footy, but I was one of the fortunate ones where, as I said, there was plenty of other girls that couldn't play tournaments or games because of their work or financial reasons.
Well, take us back to 1999 when it was decided that the women would play an interstate match, Queensland against New South Wales. What were your memories, or what were your emotions like when you found that out and you were going to play for Queensland?
So proud, and unbelievable moment, to be honest, where growing up watching those men play in those Origin games, if you're involved in rugby league, there's nothing like it. And that maroon jersey, that until you've pulled one on, I guess no matter what sport, but particularly, talking about rugby league, you just can't explain what it is to wear that maroon jersey, and to have that opportunity to so quickly too, in my mind, that 1998 I was just sort of starting to play, and then 1999 all of a sudden they're going to have this Queensland-New South Wales game, and in our mind, I know they called it the Interstate Series, but in our mind, okay, we're playing Origin here, we get to play like the men. It's just a massive moment.
What are your memories of the game? Can you remember the game, or was it a blur?
You know what, everything's a blur when you talk about the history, but that game I do remember, in that my memory was that Queensland definite underdogs, and again you talk about that in the the history of the men's, and Choppy and others have definitely spoken to us about that, but with the women, New South Wales were red hot favourites. We were starting out battlers, first game at the ANZ stadium, and they got out to a big start, I remember, and we were probably about 3 tries behind with not too long to go. I think it might have been 10 or so minutes to go in the game, and I remember us just standing behind that try line, just, let's just one at a time, let's get one back, we're not going to lose this match, and we did, and then we got one back and a second one back, and we were attacking, and the siren was going, a final moment, and we got it out to our left winger, Tracy Thompson, and she scored on the siren in the corner. And from not knowing Women's Rugby League to us all jumping on Tracker at that moment and being front page of the Courier Mail the next day, it was like look what's happened. Just an amazing one to play in that first game and to finish a game like that. And then for the Queensland team, which some would know, some wouldn't, to go on an amazing run of 16 years straight, beating New South Wales. After that, us never losing a game to them. Fantastic memories.
Is that as important, that 1999 match, as the 1980 game for the men at Lang Park?
Yeah, I obviously can't speak on behalf of those men that were involved in that game, but from our side, 100% to play in that game. And I guess looking back now, even thinking, I hope this is now going to be every year, because I said you just didn't know in the women's game how serious they would take it or what would happen, but we were confident they were going to continue with it, and to have that first game and then continue on to where it is today, and the Origin, so exciting, and the women. Now I'm so happy they do call it State of Origin now. They recognise it as State of Origin. But also for those girls that played in all those, we called it State of Origin, so they say State of Origin in the women's is only, a few years old, which it is in called that, but we've definitely had that rivalry with New South Wales for a long time.
Well, how would you like to be the owner of one of these? A FOGS Authentic Game Ball signed by Wally Lewis at the 2023 Wally Lewis medalist Reuben Cotter. Now, all you have to do is subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. And each week, gentlemen, we'll be giving away one of these footballs to one of the viewers of the FOGS Queenslander podcast. Well done.
Well, it's good to be able to hand them on to the general public who like it, as long as we don't get blamed for breaking one of Mum's windows when they're kicking it around the backyard or tossing it around.
But this will be framed in a nice
Reuben Cotter's name. Wow.
Do you know how to subscribe and like and do all that, Gilly? No?
We can help you, mate. We can help you.
Help me out, fellas.
The two daughters can help him out.
So we have one of these to give away each week until stocks run out, until Wally gets sick and tired of signing them and Reuben Cotter disappears. But just subscribe to our channel, FOGS Queenslander Podcast. Write a comment below and click that like button. Everyone goes into the draw, and we've got one of these to give away each week.
It's a quarter of a century, basically, Karyn, and that's an extraordinary improvement, development, whatever you want to call it, of the game. Are you surprised at times when you sit here a quarter of a century on? It is does sound a lot, but the fact that NRLW is on primetime TV, they've got a competition with the teams in the NRL, et cetera, from when you were running out at Brisbane North in 1998 for the first time. Can you think how quickly this has all developed?
Oh, 100%. It's, to say back then when you'd watch your Broncos and others play, there was no way you would think that you'd ever be able to pull on a jersey of your NRL teams that you're watching on TV. So to watch these girls now, as you say, on primetime TV, and to watch, the standard just improving year on year, and, your old school footy guys who have, been potentially, the big critics of the women's game, last year coming up and saying there's so much, particularly when NRL and NRLW clash, there's so many football games to watch, but you know what, we'll definitely find time to flick on an NRLW game, and so that's really exciting how far it's gone. And to have an NRLW competition starting with 4, the 6, the 10, and now getting announced, I think pretty much now the 12 teams going in next year. I think NRL as well have done a very good job of getting the pace right of the growth of that, so that year on year it's the quality's going, and the depth coming through is going to be there.
Let's talk about the quality. How would your 1999 Queensland team go against a 2024 Queensland team?
Maybe not so good on the physical side, but on the physical as in athletic side. But I'd say we'd go all right on the physical side. Of the tough girls in there. They were definitely tough, horrific injuries. They just keep going. Mentally strong. But I think the girls today would have us.
And that question was not meant as a criticism to 1999.
No, I know.
The question was basically how far the game has come and the skill levels. Now that you're coaching at the Titans, you would see these young girls come through, and what having that pathway and what extra training and extra facilities and extra coaching does, and how important that is. Yeah,
and that's true, and that's a fair point. That to see what we had, as I said, you'd struggle, you'd get an injury and you probably wouldn't know what it was and play on because you didn't have the medical attention that they have now. So to have these teams now with the amazing support around it, like obviously the medical side, but the high performance staff, the nutrition side of it, all of those sorts of things, the physio access, that, we just didn't have back then. So, and rightfully they should have it, and, the game and everyone wants them to be more professional, and they're there, so they have to have that support behind them. But, God, it's come a long way, hasn't it, to having nothing?
Well, that leads to the next question. If 1999, say, was 0, ground level, 0 out of 100, where is the game now, and how much more growth is there?
Well, I just look at women's sport in general and I know we talk about the Matildas last year, but, I think anyone in sport, but everyone in the women's sport, I know we were all gathered around the TV at the Titans, all watching it together, and then to watch all the other codes, whether it's AFLW or, netball, all the other sports just in women's sport in general, just advancing so far. It's just really pleasing from where I sit to see how they're getting recognised now, but how far it's come, gosh, like to have not a national competition only a few years ago, to have, 10 quality teams in that. I think, in time we'll get to that full complement of teams, having NRLW teams. And, I'd love to see at the moment, no one likes overly the word semi-professional, but the girls are still working every day. I've got girls in my team here at the Titans working, getting up at 4 a.m, doing a shift, coming into us. Their mothers, they're getting home at 9 o'clock at night and doing that again. I talk about them, and the other girls still have to work from a financial point of view, and because it is only that certain amount of time a year. So it's just trying to work out as a game now, them being more professional and having that opportunity to try to balance how they do that moving forward.
So what's the next step? Say, for example, we're never going to see women competing against men in rugby league, but when are we going to see your coaching, head coach of the Gold Coast Titans? When is someone like you going to get a crack at NRL level? Not necessarily talking about head coach straight away, but do you see that as a pathway for you, that you could be potentially an assistant coach somewhere before maybe doing that?
Oh, look, for me personally, it was only a couple of years ago. I was probably policing and then at Integrity and still having an involvement in the game, but not really a mind to coaching. And this has been quite a whirlwind for me the last couple of years. And I've got a lot to learn. I've got a lot of good people around me helping me with that at the moment. But it's like I see the women's players not that long ago, you'd say they can't play rugby league or play this sport. So there's plenty of good female coaches out there, definitely looking for some opportunities and, learning their coaching as well. So I think, I know that it will be just a matter of time that, and women being women, we probably need a little bit more confidence to take that step, to be honest. So I think for me personally, it's just keep working hard with the girls at the Titans and keep learning and then, I think there'll be more and more NRLW women coaches and potentially then branching out with good mentors, which we definitely need. You need that in any job.
Well, we're seeing women referee in the NRL. Why can't we see them coach?
Well, you can. And I think that took time with obviously Belinda and Casey and a few of the girls coming through, which is great to see. So it's just, again, I just believe, and I saw the same in my time at policing, it's, it takes a little bit of time, but, we definitely, deserve opportunities. I'm not saying that, but, and you'll see it. I'm sure you'll see it in years to come.
Who's had the biggest influence on your career?
Coaching or playing?
Either.
Oh, okay. Well, from a playing point of view, I would say that I had plenty of good coaches, and it's hard to, highlight one in particular. I had, Dave Leet at the South when I started here. He took a chance when we walked in the door and said, "Can we play rugby league?" And he put his hand up to be coach. So he had a big influence from the get-go. And then Rob Bruff, who many would know in media, he coached us, read the news up at Maroochydore and travelled down to South and then coached us for about 6 or 7 years. Learned a lot from Rob. And then representative coaches, they've all been amazing, but I would like to mention Graham Murray, who, like Muzz, who, again, he, coaching NRL and that level around that time when we speak about, he came in 2011, took us to Samoa and Paul Dyer and his crew, and they did an amazing job with us. And, Muzz is a special place in my heart that he took us through to the 2013 World Cup and couldn't make the trip as he was ill, but they definitely had big influences on me as a player. And then as a coach, again, I take all of what they provided me as a player, and Wayne Bennett's been a mentor for me through my time. And then, and I will say it, and he's at the Titans now, but Des Hasler's also provided me a lot of support.
Is there a player, male or female, that you would love to have played with in any era that you never got to play with?
Andrew Johns. I'd love to have, again, a half, but Yeah, what a freak he is, and just such a smart footy mind. So Andrew Johns, I'd love to play with Joey and speak to Joey all things footy. And then the modern era, Nathan Cleary.
If they wheeled us back in, Karyn, in 25 years' time to have another chat, where would you like to see the women's game?
I'd like to see it full time, so the girls, don't have to be. They're like literally, as I spoke about before, 24/7. Trying to be as professionally as they can in a sport, but where it is still in that part time. I guess like the men, the Queensland Cup sort of, or Hospice Cup, how they are with their work and training, and family. So I'd like to see them work out definitely sooner rather than later how they balance and have a good playing career, being able to play rugby league, and have the competition grow and expand to more and more teams, and the pathways, that's just getting stronger and stronger. So the girls now that are able to play at the age of 6 right through their whole time, they just know rugby league, that's what they can play, is just awesome to see, where you could never do that until a couple of years ago. The Origin, keep that going. They've finally gone to the 3 games as well, but with that is another chunk of their time and big commitment that starts now. So the Origin, the 3 games is awesome, and then the international, like the men, just the other countries, really growing that in the women's space for the World Cups to have more and more countries participating.
I know your career's not over in the game, but as we sit here and reflect on 27 tests, 20 matches for Queensland, the first game, a young girl growing up watching on the hill at Davies Park, can you encapsulate what you look back on and what the journey's been like?
Yeah, I still do remember those days as a young girl, a little ball girl with my South jersey on, and I don't know why, but I love the game of rugby league. It, probably to my mother's horror, but I did love it, and so yeah, I think been retired a while now, but just so many fond memories of that playing. I wish I could have started earlier, because don't get me wrong, I dragged every year out of this old body I possibly could to get to where I played, how old I played, but I wish I could have played earlier and younger and had that opportunity to play more of it, but really am grateful I did play, and it started when it started, and thankful to the people who fought hard for that to happen, and really glad that they now recognise that women can play rugby league, and not just play, like you mentioned, they can referee, they can coach, they can be sports administrators, they can be involved in this game that was so traditionally male dominated, and so yeah, just really fond memories of it, and how much longer, I think in some capacity I'll hopefully always be involved in this game.
Karyn, thanks for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks for watching this episode of the FOGS Queenslander Podcast. If there's a FOG you want to hear from, leave a comment to let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos.